Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we are going to be taking a look at the Cup race at Talladega. It's the Geico 500. Before I get started, can you guys smash the like and subscribe button? So this race is going to be a Hail Mary race, as in everybody is capable of winning and everybody is capable of getting last. So prioritizing drivers that are starting at the back and have the opportunity to stick around at the back and save themselves until the end of the race is definitely going to be the strategy here. We have a lot of data on the drivers at this track and at Daytona, which is where you do this. And so I think we're going to have some, at least some decent options. The catch is that this race can be very complicated and there will be wrecks and it won't be anybody's fault that people get knocked out. So it's just going to be a random Hail Mary. You can definitely go cheap and just, stack up the cheap guys that typically do good at hanging around to the end. And that is definitely a strategy on a race like this, and it has paid off in the past, so do keep that in mind. We're just going to go through the drivers and kind of give you my thoughts on them. So let's go ahead and start here at the top with the top four guys in Blaney, Byron, Hamlin, and Keselowski. All four of these guys start outside the top 10. Three of them start outside the top 20. That definitely gives us some potential today. I think Blaney and Hamlin are great plays at their price points when it comes to the starting positions, as they also have a history of not crashing here. In fact, in the last 6 races, neither of these two guys have had a DNF, and that does give them a lot of potential. Blaney, obviously, the most expensive play, but I think both those guys are great. Byron and Keselowski are both contrarian options in this price range, but they're good plays. So because they've only crashed out once in the last 6 races, but between the two of them, and Keselowski's managed to win. All four of these guys have had at least 3 top 10s in the past 6 races or better, with several of them having 3 top 5s. So I think all of them are very good plays here. Looking at the next group, which is Chase Elliott, Logano, and Kyle Busch. These three all start the top 10. And now I do like Busch and Chase Elliott as they have a good history here, and they do tend to get top 5s and top 10s, and also top 20s. But their starting position definitely hurts here, though I do think Kyle Busch has potential to lead this race some, at least early on. Say, looking at Logano, though, he's kind of an avoidable play. He's had 2 crashes in the last 6 races here, and he's only had one top 20 in that stretch. So, and he's really not been all that great to start the season. So I think he's a very avoidable play, especially with the starting position. Looking at our next group here, which is going to be Bubba Wallace, Larson, um, Chastain. Okay, so Bubba Wallace does start 14th. He's traditionally really good here. In fact, for the last 6 races here, he's been in the top 20. He's also managed to win. His starting position isn't super ideal, but it's okay. He's definitely worth a look here because he does tend to try to stick to the back and wait until near the end. These other two drivers, and Larson and Chastain, are both contrarian options today as they start really far back, which definitely helps. But they both have had some wrecks here in the past, and so that is the issue. But both of them have top 5 potential in this race regardless, and their starting position extremely helpful in getting them into a positive situation here. Obviously, if they wreck, that won't matter too much, but it definitely helps being that Kyle Larson's, I think he's last to start, and Chastain is in the bottom 5. So looking at the next group here with Buescher, Bell, and Martin Truex Jr., and all three of these guys start in the top 10. And outside of Christopher Bell, I think Buescher and Truex Jr. are both somewhat avoidable today. It's not that they have a lot of, a history of crashing out here. It's just that they haven't ever been all that great, even without crashing out. They barely get top 20s most of the time here, so it's definitely a high risk, high reward, even without the crashing out. They could survive to the end, but getting a top 15 or getting 15th or 20th may not be ideal on this race, especially with other drivers being cheaper or being slightly more expensive, but starting near the back as opposed to near the front. As for Christopher Bell, he is an okay play today. He has not crashed out in the last 6 races, and he's had 5 top 20s in that stretch. He's also capable of being in the top 5 and top 10, so he's definitely interesting, but a very contrarian play at the start point. Looking at the next group here with Reddick, Bowman, Stenhouse, Gibbs, Cindric, Dillon, and Suarez. All of these guys are relatively avoidable today. These guys, for the most part, aside from Cindric, they all have a couple DNFs each in the last 6 or 7 races at these type of tracks, and they're definitely contrarian plays. Now, they are definitely capable of good races, but I don't think Stenhouse is very favorable today. But I think all the guys in the top that start in the top 20 in that group, they're all capable of finishing in the top 20, but they're very high risk today as their starting positions are not ideal and they're pretty avoidable to me. When we get to Eric Jones, I do like Eric Jones quite a bit here. He's only had one DNF in the last 6 races. He's also had 4 top 10s here. He's one of those guys that's definitely going to hang around to the end of the race and try to get you top 15 position. He's also starting near the back, which definitely gives him some upside. Looking at the next group here with Briscoe and Noah Gragson, I think both these guys are okay plays. They're not good plays, but they're okay as they don't DNF too much and they do have that top 20 potential and they're starting outside the top 20, which gives them some potential on this one. Then we get to Michael McDowell. Now, Michael McDowell typically does really good at Daytona. He's not really had a lot of success here at this particular track. He's had 2 top 5s in the past 6, though, so he's definitely decent here. He hasn't crashed out either. The problem is he's starting first. I don't think he's going to retain it for very long early in the race, so he's not going to get a ton of laps led, but he's definitely a capable driver, and I think he does end up sticking around in the back to the end if he drops out of the front early on. So looking at the next group here, he's definitely okay. He's just risky. The next group here with Corey LaJoie and Ryan Preece, I think both these guys are very avoidable. They both have several DNFs, and they don't have a ton of upside. LaJoie does have a little upside with his starting position, but he's just mostly avoidable here. Looking at Josh Berry, he looks like an okay play today as he has a good car here, and he should be able to hang around the back and potentially get to the end, though I could see him crash as well, so it's hard to know. Todd Gilliland is easily avoidable here, starting the top 5, and he really has struggled here in the past, so I don't think he's a great option at all. Looking at the next group here with Nemechek, Harsivor, and Zane Smith, I think all 3 of these guys are avoidable. Husavor and Smith have had 1 race here in the last 6 races that they raced here, and they both they're both big candidates to get caught up in wrecks, and so I think they're pretty avoidable. Nemechek is kind of interesting, but he definitely starts a little too high for me to really like him a lot. Looking at Justin Haley, he's a really good, interesting option, starting 27th. He hasn't crashed out in the last 6 races here. He's had 5 top 20s as well. He's also led a couple laps, so he's very interesting on this one. He's kind of a Hail Mary play, but he definitely looks okay. Van Gisbergen also looks okay today, as he hung around yesterday in the Xfinity race and tried to get to the end. But I think he's going to have that ability today again as well. And then for the last bottom 5 guys here, the only guy that I like in this group here is Alfredo, as he does draw some potential today. As in his 2 races here, he's been in the top 20 and 1 top 10 in the last 6. So I think he's definitely possible to have a decent race. He also hasn't fallen out here. Burton looks like one of the most avoidable plays, as he's actually crashed in 4 of the last 5 races at this track. So definitely avoidable. With that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave below. And have a nice day, guys.